The event is being closed.
So I just went to Wild Wild West Con.
We are not allowing any more people inside.
And it was absolutely...
If you are staying at the hotel, you have to leave.
We have to be out of the room in an hour.
The vendors all have to be out in 2 hours. There's no event, it's done. Canceled, no more.
Wild. Imagine being a guest at a convention, a small convention for a dying fandom, and getting kicked out of not just the con, but also your hotel room. Well, that happened to me and a couple thousand other people who attended Wild Wild West Con, a small steampunk convention held in Tucson, Arizona. This is the story of that weekend. This is partially about what I originally wanted this video to be about, which was asking the question, is steampunk dead? But it's primarily about the series of events that made this unfortunately the worst con I've ever been to. So let's back up to how we got here. First of all, steampunk is a subgenre of science fiction, primarily coming from alternate history novels that imagine what the world would look like if instead of the world running on electricity or combustion engines, that it ran on steam. And that idea spiraled into a subculture where people dress up in Victorian-inspired clothing featuring tubes, gears, pocket watches, and to my chagrin, top hats. Lots and lots of top hats. But unlike goth, that can never die because it's already dead, steampunk kind of hit its peak around the early 2010s, and ever since then, it's kind of been running out of steam. So when I got invited to be a guest at Wild Wild West Con, a steampunk-specific convention, I was like, they still have steampunk cons? And I was so curious to see what the steampunk fandom looked like in 2025 and to experience the desert biome for the first time that I headed all the way to Tucson, Arizona to find out. And to be honest, I wasn't expecting a lot from this con. On top of being a con for a fandom past its prime, this con was also pretty small, but it also recently had a considerable venue downgrade. You see, Wild Wild West Con used to be held at Old Tucson, which was just a really cool location. In fact, the con got its name from its old venue, as this was where Wild Wild West, the movie, was filmed. But in 2020, the venue itself closed down, so now Wild Wild West Con is held at the Casino del Sol, which, while not a Wild West town, is a casino, so that's different for me, I guess. But it's still like, dang, you kinda can't beat that. And with what ended up happening this weekend, the Casino del Sol might end up being the death of WWWC. But as we arrived, I was just happy to see some cactuses. I didn't know they got this big. And for such a small convention, they treated me like a princess, because we got picked up from the airport and they gave us like a welcome basket with Cheez-Its and Diet Coke. But it also had this giant pack of machine sewing needles, which is just so awesome, and a seam ripper, and like, that's just really nice. Thank you. Also, I want to back up to the front of my cactus montage and shout out the most consistently loud and smelly 2 children that we sat behind on the plane. Because I just really want to tell you about my very weird experience of being in a strange Dramamine haze state while listening to John Green's new book, Everything is Tuberculosis, and hearing about the deadliest disease in the world while listening to a child scream and smelling its poop. While we had arrived on Wednesday, Thursday morning was our first chance to check out the venue, because after grabbing coffee surrounded by slot machines, we wandered through the shockingly decked out casino floor. Both Joe and I had never been to a casino before, so it was really crazy to see the big faux sky. This was really cool. I'm not interested in gambling at all, but I am always interested in fake buildings and fake skies. There's definitely still fun places to take pictures here. Like, considering where the venue used to be and how cool that was, like, this is not a total downgrade. Like, I mean, you even got the extra light from all the machines. Though we did find the branding of all the different slot machines interesting, to say the least. Titty glitter. You can get a husbando in this one. Waifu? Beer waifu? I was happy that we walked around and did this now because it was 7:30 in the morning, so there was nobody on the casino floor, and I don't think I would have felt right filming people gambling, but I got the jackpot on slot machine B-roll. And it's also a good thing I did this because while there was supposed to be a fire show that night from Steampunk Xena, it got canceled, so we spent this entire day waiting for the Severance finale to come out, and oh my god, we loved it, but then we immediately went to the con's reception, but we didn't stay long because we really just wanted to talk to each other about Severance and we were worried about spoiling people, so all I have from Thursday is a few clips of us tragically getting ignored by the servers with the hors d'oeuvres, but foreshadowing, it might be a good thing that we didn't get any of these.
I see steampunks down there. That guy is definitely going just to the casino and he has no idea what's going on. Watch him ask, watch him ask. Nah, he ain't asking.
I was excited for Friday though, because it was time for me to join the steampunks and become my steampunk cowboy. This is Red Dead Redhead, as named by one of my patrons, Evertone. She's a cowboy lady, and she protect her cows from invading airships, and unlike most steampunk characters that are British, because one of the influential steampunk novels involves the British Empire never falling, this cowboy is American who fights for the freedom of her precious cows with her powerful finger guns. Pew pew, pew 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 pew.
Badass cowboy doing domestic shit.
Oh, and Joe's outfit for today was Lumen Neutrals. Look at my boy! Are you ready to macro data refine?
I want to try to do the thing. You know what to do. I gotta do the camera part. You zoom out and come. Oh, I did it. Just do the thing. Now there's just some dude filming me for now.
What a nice guy. I'll film you back, bitch. Anyway, we rootin' and tootin' down to the vendor hall to see what was for sale. And it was kind of a strange mix. It was exactly what you'd expect in some ways. Lots of leather goods and hats, plenty of top hats, but also really a lot of stuff you would expect to see at the Ren Fair, like herbs and teas, but also soaps and candles. But then also randomly a few things you would expect to see at an anime convention. And of course, that freeze-dried candy that's like everywhere for some reason. But this is where we got a sense of just how little there was to actually do at this con. Cause we walked through the vendor room in probably less than 15 minutes and saw all of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different. It's just small. It's just the kind of vendor room that's absolutely perfect for going to a con for a day. But we'd be here all weekend. So we were going to need to turn to the programming to have something to do. So we looked at the schedule, and while there were some events that did look interesting tomorrow, there wasn't much being offered on Friday. So we went to do the one thing small conventions are great for, a place to go take pictures in your fun outfit.
There's a man.
Of course.
So let me tell you more about that, because the story of how this outfit came together is pretty interesting, because it was about to not look cute. This vest was the practice round for my Okaroon cosplay that I haven't started yet besides patterning it and making this mock-up. But my method for buying mock-up fabric was just going to Goodwill in search of anything brown, and I got shined on by the thrift gods because I found this gorgeous brown and gold brocade tablecloth and this matching table runner, though it may be curtains, I'm not actually sure, but it was such a lucky find. Oh, and those random straps are actually straps I made for my Breath of the Wild link that I forgot that I even had because I consistently forget that I made that cosplay because I made it in 2020 and nothing that happened at that time remains in my brain. And then I went to Walmart a week before the con and found the closest thing I could to a cowboy hat, which is this, which I can only describe as a basic white girl hat. I got that, and then some craft foam, some googly eyes, a couple Surebonder glue sticks, and some apple barrel paint tubes later, and we have a steaming hot cowboy-ish hat. Which, did you know that cowboy hats wouldn't exist without tuberculosis, kind of? It was made in 3 hours and it's covered in hot glue strings, but by God, it looks awesome, and that's what steampunk's about, isn't it? Are you on a Nort bow?
I guess.
Anyway, it was time for my panel, which was my absolute basics of sewing panel, and this would be my first impression of how popular I was as a guest for the steampunks, and the answer was not at all.
Welcome to the absolute basics of sewing. Thank you all for you for coming.
With how small the con is, I wasn't surprised that not many people came, and some of the people that came were absolutely lovely, but some were not, and I'll get to that. but more than 4 people did eventually show up, including one of my patrons, Jeannie Beanie. And there was this nice older man who kept giving me all these big smiles over the jokes written in my PowerPoint. But in the back row sat a woman who came in before the panel even started, and she spent the entire panel commenting under her breath over what I had to say. This person clearly knew how to sew, as she had a few comments during the question portion that made that clear, but thanks, lady, for scoffing at a panel that you didn't even need. But yeah, I was expecting to be accepted by the open arms of the steampunks. And I'll be clear, the staff accepted me. The owners of the con even came to my panel and asked questions. I felt incredibly welcomed and respected by the con staff, but not by that lady. And maybe I was just feeling a little shy today, or maybe I'm just used to having strangers at cons ask for my picture because I'm dressed up as characters they like, but nobody asked for a picture of Red Dead Redhead. Which I guess I expected, it's because it's not like I'm dressed as a popular character from a popular show, except my fiance was, and nobody even knew who he was. One person, Geneva, shout out to her. Geneva is a member of Marquise of Vaudeville, a band that was going to perform at the con, we'll get to that, who we had dinner with on Friday night, and she loved Joe's cosplay, but she and her partner were the only people excited to see an innie. And feeling out of place at the con did not compare to how incredibly strange it felt to walk through the casino in funny clothes, because that casino never slowed down and never sleeps. And the people there to gamble far outnumbered the con goers. I will say, I did get a feeling of acceptance from the fandom whenever I passed another steampunk in the casino, because they give me a nod as if to say, yeah, I see you, fellow weirdo. Glad you're under the poker sign at this moment too. And you might think that as a cosplayer, I'm used to walking around in weird clothing, but no, I felt very strange in this casino. Most cons I go to are insulated from the public, and this was not. Anyway, the last thing we did on Friday night was actually a dinner that we were invited to that was for VIP attendees to get to have dinner with the owners of the con and some of the guests. Now, I didn't film a lot of this other than a few random shots of my food and Joe being hot, but this dinner unexpectedly became the turning point of the weekend. Because after me unsurprisingly finding out that the steampunks do not think steampunk can ever die, just like its cousin goth, steampunk has fallen out of style though, and while I don't mean this offensively at all, but judging by the age range of the attendees at the con, it is clear that steampunk as a fandom is aging. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it became scary to think about when also while at this dinner, we learned that a few members of the con staff had started to get sick. While Friday was supposed to be the day that I assimilated into the steampunk, Saturday was going to be the day to test whether or not it's weird to wear an anime cosplay to a steampunk convention, because I had brought my new Momo cosplay, but I just could not bring myself to wear it. For 2 reasons. 1, if nobody knew who Mark S was yesterday, with Severance being such a big show, then nobody was going to know what Dandadan was either. And my whole point of wearing Momo was to use cosplay as its intended purpose to find people that wanted to talk about Dandadan, but I was pretty sure that that wouldn't happen. And 2, walking around the casino was weird enough as a cowboy, but I'd at least get a nod from the steampunks passing by. But if I was Momo, then I would just be weird on all fronts. So I decided to save her for Sunday in hopes that there would be less casino goers then, and decided to combine my own favorite alternate fashion with steampunk. But honestly, I kind of just wanted to keep wearing my fun hat. Plus all the bags that I had on those straps were pretty sick. Anyway, while Friday was pretty underwhelming with its programming, Saturday had a few things that we wanted to get to. I had my own panel at 11, but then at 4 o'clock there was Nerf battling, which seemed like a pretty integral part of steampunk culture. So we headed down to the dealer's room and ended up buying some cute pins and charms from one of the booths selling anime merch, and even got to see a little bit of the teapot racing, which was kind of hilarious and also self-explanatory. But then 2 interactions set the stage for what was about to happen. The first was a conversation we had with Geneva of Marquise of Vaudeville, who was sitting at her table in the hallway alone. We asked her if she was excited for the concert tonight, but she scrunched up her face and said, well, 2 of the bandmates are sick, including the singer. They were up all night, and they might not be able to perform. A little later, we passed by the owner of the con in the hallway on the way to my panel, and I just stood there filming the belly dancers, but Joe spoke to him for a moment, and this is where we caught wind that something terrible was coming. The owner told Joe that the sickness a few people had was possibly norovirus, which is highly contagious. Though it's contagious through touch and not through the air. And we did notice then that the con had switched out the water stations from jugs to bottles. And while we were concerned, I still had a panel to do. And this was one that I was actually confident in the structure of and was pretty sure that I was the singular expert on at the con, my cosplay content for YouTube panel. Because unless Jimmy Beast himself showed up, I didn't think anyone would be making comments under their breath this time. And nobody did. But more importantly though, this panel was where I got to meet some online friends I've known for a while, but have never gotten a chance to meet in real life, and who would ultimately end up being our saviors of the weekend, Em and Trevor, who some may know as the people that banned them from the spacecraft. Don't worry, I probably told them to ban you. After the panel, I was still determined to go to the Crow Exchange, which is where you go trade little trinkets like a crow. And I had brought a little bag of beads to trade, and I did get to exchange a few shiny beads, but with how packed the room was and with the norovirus thing looming, we got out of there pretty quickly as it just didn't seem like a good idea. So we headed over to the Tea Dueling, which is one of WWC's headlining events, and Em even got to participate. This is a goofy little game where two people dunk cookies into tea and they have to wait a set amount of time and then they pull them up, and whoever eats the cookie last wins. But if your cookie falls apart, you lose. So it's cookie chicken. It was really cute, and even if you lost, you won a giant lemon from somebody who brought a bunch of lemons to the con because they had a lemon tree and it made too many lemons, so Em got a lemon. But as Em got off stage with her victory lemon, I'm gonna steal a joke from John Green's book that is a joke he stole from someone else. If this was a movie, this would be the part where the con would pull out the white rag and start coughing. Because in the middle of the panel, they got on the mic to announce that they had to end the panel early.
We are going to, I have to shut down the space. I'm so sorry. So sorry.
They shut down the panel with no explanation. Was this just for this panel, or is like the con? Like,
I think it may be because we were eating and drinking things.
yeah,
It was fun while it lasted.
yeah, that was cute. That was adorable. And well, I got to film you doing it, so.
Well, that's all that matters.
But we went outside and sat down to color at the comic book van, and we'd barely hit marker to coloring page when we overheard a staff member approach the guy running the coloring station.
3 hours to pack up and then go home.
Wait, what? Does that mean it's just totally shut down? If so, we are flying home tomorrow, not Monday.
See, right now we just, for medical reasons, we need to start moving everybody on.
Really? Is there anything else you can tell me just out of curiosity?
Not at this time. The con may have more, but right now we need to work on getting.
It sounds like coronavirus or something, right?
Right now we just need to work on getting everybody out. Okay.
Sure. Was it a quarantine?
No. We've started.
And while it did feel weird to do this, of course, I kept recording. And what I got next is the craziest stuff I have ever seen at a con. We approached the comic book van man to get clarification on what we overheard.
Are they shutting down the
Yes, that's what she just told us. They're shutting it down. And
just in a panel and they kicked us out?
yes,
Yeah, I thought I heard that.
Like, you have to check out of the hotel?
yes. What is that? What about people from out of state?
Yeah.
On the other side of the country.
That's insane. Like, that's insane to do to people. Okay.
We overheard that.
No, obviously. And so apparently, some people have been getting sick. I haven't heard.
We heard it was
I've heard
norovirus.
Well, apparently the casinos heard and said, all right, get out. Apparently they're shutting it down for medical concerns. That they're saying you're bringing the norovirus to the casino. That's insane, but I think that's what it is. That's insane. That to me is insane.
And when I tried to go back inside, I was met with a venue representative making the announcement to attendees.
The event is being closed. For those that are participating or here, we are not allowing any more people inside. If you are staying at the hotel, you have to leave. You have an hour to gather your things and leave the hotel. So you can go to the front desk. I know it's a shock. I'm finding it out too. We're just making sure that we're shutting down the event in a timely manner. The vendors all have to be out in 2 hours.
Have they said why?
There's no event. It's done. Canceled. No more. Gone.
Not tomorrow either.
Not tomorrow either. Nothing. Yeah. The event has been canceled.
Have they said why?
I'm not able to say that, but there has been some people that have been getting sick.
With what?
I'm not a doctor. Okay. I wish I could say more. I don't know anything. I'm just helping. I'm in food and beverage, but right now.
Well, thank you,
no
ma'am,
more-
from food and
You're very
beverage.
welcome. But no more participants. They know what's going on at the hotel, and they will help you over there.
Joe, we have to be out of the room in an hour. Yes. Joe and I were panicking because most people at this event were local and could just go home, but we flew in, we didn't have a car, and our flight wasn't until Monday. And it wasn't just us. One of the other guests, Madam Misfit, she came all the way from England, so she really had nowhere to go. And the Tucson airport is pretty small, so there were not a whole lot of options for changing flights. But luckily for us, Em and Trevor were still around. They had driven in from Phoenix for the day, and they graciously and thankfully agreed to be our escape plan. So they went back to their car, but me and Joe had to head back inside to try to get back to our hotel room. And on the way, we asked a few friendly faces what they knew.
What? Do you know what's going on? So the tribal lands have declared that there is a medical emergency here. Somebody said that they were tested positive for norovirus. Okay. So they're shutting down the con. The con is currently looking for hotel rooms for all of their guests. They're asking everyone to leave the hotel.
Yeah.
We have 2 hours to pack up and get out.
Nice to meet you. This is probably goodbye. We also did confirm that the con staff did have a plan for us, but then we got stopped in our speedy tracks by the elevator line. And we had the terrible experience of packing up all of our stuff within an hour, which was as stressful and bad as I'm sure you can imagine it was. And it made me very sweaty. I barely remembered to wash off the weird makeup I was wearing, and because we came carry-on only, there was no room for my Cheez-Its, so they got left behind. Though it wasn't like people were banging on our door or anything to get out. Anyway, when we were waiting in the elevator line, Joe got our flights changed, and our angels in the desert took us all the way to Phoenix, which was honestly rad because we got to see way more of the beautiful desert. The wild thing, though, was that it seemed pretty clear that the casino people or anyone at the hotel that was not a member of the con was not asked to leave. In fact, as we waited to take the elevator down, we heard from people who were in their rooms that no one had called the hotel rooms to tell everybody to get out. So in the moment, we were not actually sure if the entire venue got evacuated or if it was just the con attendees, but after the con, there were several articles that confirmed that no, the casino goers and the other hotel guests, they were allowed to stay. Which is just kind of crazy, but also stupid. Because if your concern is a disease spreading, making people leave is just going to spread the disease further, which funnily enough, is exactly what happened. Anyway, on our drive to Phoenix, we caught a few updates from the other guests that showed that the con staff did manage to get all the guests somewhere else to stay, but we literally drove into the sunset and got some yummy dinner in Phoenix, but this was not the fairy tale ending that we thought it was going to be, because while getting to the airport went smooth, everything went wrong on the plane. Suffice it to say, we were kind of just excited to get on the plane to just pass out. But no. This person that we dealt with on this plane made that baby from the first flight look like a saint. Because at least that was a baby. That baby had no idea that they were annoying people. But on this flight, the girl directly behind me, a grown-ass adult, turned her bright in blue-ass light, LED-ass sleepiness-sapping light on so that she could read a book. Anyway, I put my sweater over my head to block out light, and I did end up going to sleep for like most of the flight, but the nightmare wasn't over for me. And karma was about to bring that girl into the nightmare too. Because about 20 minutes before landing, the plane jumbled around, and the heat from having my sweatshirt on my head was starting to get to me, and I knew something was coming, something I have known before. I was about to throw up for motion sickness. And I tried to grab the sick bag in the seat, but it was too late. 1, the mixed greens from my salad eclipsed the window. 2, I covered my beloved Manco shirt in man juices. 3, out of the corner of my eye I could see that the reader got hit with a stray. And while I thought in my sleepy haze that I had motion sickness, and I legit thought that because I have thrown up on planes from that before, it became pretty clear as we got out of the airport and the vomiting did not stop that I had something else, because it wouldn't end for a few more hours. But for a trip whose entire purpose was to answer the question, is steampunk dead, to end with a disease that literally could be deadly to its aging fandom is just sad. Isn't it? Is it? A few days later, the con put out a very detailed press release that laid out everything they knew, which was not a lot. In their statement, they say that the con was never actually told a hard reason for the shutdown, but that they were aware that some vendors, staff, and guests had gotten sick, but they didn't know how many or with what. It also included an update section that stated an hour before the con was able to put out their own statement, the venue made one to news media, claiming that the shutdown was from norovirus. But this article was so sparse that it frustrated me, because where was the venue's proof that it was in fact norovirus? Another article points out that the venue has never put forward any proof that the norovirus claim wasn't just something somebody said. This is part of the con's statement. We had heard an unconfirmed rumor that someone may have had norovirus, so on Saturday at 1:28 p.m., one of the owners sent a text to our event manager at the Casino del Sol that included a link to the CDC page on norovirus, in the hope of opening a dialogue about the situation. We never stated that this was the confirmed source of the mystery illness, we only shared the information as a potential lead. Prepared to cooperate, we awaited further direction, but less than 2 hours later, we were called into a meeting where the convention was shut down. And when people on Facebook started conspirizing that maybe it was actually food poisoning, the venue responded with, "To be frank, this situation has been given far more attention than it warrants. Venues and events across the country experience norovirus cases from time to time, and this is simply a case of a group being unhappy with Casino del Sol's decision to prioritize the health and safety of all guests, team members, and tribal members." But what about the safety of those playing the slot machines? Why didn't they have to leave? But I, like the people on Facebook, was really annoyed with the lack of concrete proof of norovirus, especially when Joe, who I puked right next to several times, did not get sick, that I went and got the proof with my own body. I went and took a PCR test for norovirus, and I was told that the test covers everything gastrointestinal. So no matter what it was, the test would tell us. Y'all, I did a stool sample test for this video. If that does not make you subscribe or at least hit the like button, like, you cannot tell me I'm not dedicated. Please subscribe. And the test results were norovirus. That's the proof. I just don't understand why we couldn't confirm that. And yeah, it's probably a HIPAA thing, but just so nobody else thinks it's food poisoning, I can violate my own HIPAA. Here you go. Here's the thing though, nobody's mad that the con got shut down. We're angry that your disorganized communication caused all of this unnecessary panic in people that were about to get sick. I panicked and got on a plane, but I wouldn't have done that if you didn't freak me out by making me do a speed run of packing up my hotel room. And I mean, can you really blame the tribal authority for seeing a bunch of people speaking with fake British accents, drinking tea and spreading diseases and going, yeah, y'all gotta go? That part is fair. But why did the venue's staff not have anything they could tell us? Why did they say things like, the con will have answers, but then the con is like, we need answers from you? Why are you making people check out within an hour? How are the tin types people gonna get all of that equipment out in 2 hours? They didn't. Everybody was out in like 5 hours, so why give people these unattainable time limits and cause all of this panic? And why are you also not cleaning the casino? Like, I was in there. I have footage of it. I had norovirus. Here is me in your casino with norovirus. It was just so reasonably stressful and disrespectful, and while I can understand the authorities' reasoning, I cannot help but feel really bad for this con. These people were so nice to us. They clearly wanted not just me, but everybody at the con to have such a good time, and their adorable con about hot leaf juice and top hats got obliterated. And now I'm making a video titled The Worst Con I've Ever Been To, because it was that, but it wasn't because of anything the con did. And like, yeah, we were a little bored on Friday, but I really wanted to see the Nerf dueling, and I don't know how to answer any of my questions that I have for the venue. Only they can answer those. And I'm sorry this happened to you, Wild Wild West Con. But I also thank you for one of the craziest stories I will ever be able to tell. You have certainly earned the right to put wild in your name, not just once, but twice. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel directly, you can check out my Patreon where you'll get some exclusive content. But if you're just watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, sending the video to a friend or your mom, or subscribing, please, oh my god, please subscribe, then you're supporting the channel too. So thank you. A huge thank you to Em and Trevor again for getting us out of Tucson and over to Phoenix. A huge thank you for Joe for taking care of me when I was sick. Thank you to the staff of Wild Wild West Con for being so cool. I'm sorry that this is how the video ended up being, but you know, that's how this cookie crumbled. But the biggest thank you to my newest big support tier patrons: Elizabeth, Verflames, Asher, 514 Cakes, Law Needle, Denise, and Kat. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.